this is how you throw a bowl on the pottery wheel. So first off, I have about 2 pounds of clay. You do not have to start off with that much. Remember, you are a beginning thrower, so starting with a little less clay, and each time you throw, add a little more as you get comfortable. So we're gonna start off with coning this clay, just to review coning. So there are 2 ways to start coning, okay? One is to create the point, okay? So I can do that with this karate chop method, okay? So if you see, I've got my hand pointed like this, and I'm getting the point that I need. The other way to do it, okay, let me flatten this back out for you, is using kind of what I call your thumb meat, okay? And I'm going to just press my thumb like this to create kind of a point, okay? If it's not really showing up, you can also push with your left hand, okay? Do both hands together to create that point, okay? So the reason why you want a point is because you don't want a hole in your clay. So when I cone this, my left hand's on the side, my right hand's got the sponge. I'm gonna kind of squeeze the clay up, okay? And I need this point to be there so it actually looks like a cone. So I'm squeezing this clay up, okay? Making sure it's always thinner at the top. I'm holding it on the side, otherwise it would probably fall over, okay, if I was pushing without holding it on the left side. Okay, so I'm squeezing that clay up into a cone shape, then I'm gonna hold it on the side while I press it down. And this is just another way of wedging on the wheel, making sure there's no issues with our clay. We're checking for air bubbles. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. Okay, got my karate chop method going on there. I'm gonna squeeze this clay up. And push it down. So that is coning. Okay, you should always cone your clay unless it has perfectly been cut off the block. All right, I'm gonna go into centering now, okay? So my right hand is on top, holding the sponge. My left hand is gonna be on the side. I'm pressing down while my left hand pushes forward. It's mostly my left hand doing the work. My right hand is just kind of holding the clay on top still. But really my left hand is doing the work here. I don't want to go too fast. I want to go a nice medium speed. And I'm just pushing with this part of my hand forward. When the clay is not bumping my hand anymore, my pinky finger is not really moving from the clay, then I'm going to gently release the pressure and move into my next stage. And I'm just cleaning off my hands here and there with my sponge. You're obviously gonna have some slip on your hands, but you just don't wanna have chunks. Okay, so I'm gonna check to make sure it's centered. How I do that, I bring a finger closely towards this bottom, and as long as it's not bumping me, okay, then I am good to go. So bowls are actually a little bit easier to make than a cylinder because the walls don't have to be perfectly straight, okay? This bucket here is an example of a cylinder where the bottom is flat and the sides are straight. We have a 90-degree angle here, okay? But a bowl goes out, so easier to make because you don't have to be as controlled when you are raising. So the first difference, though, there's a couple differences, 4 that we're going to talk about, okay? The first one is that when we drill, we want a thick bottom, okay? That is because we're gonna have a whole nother step that we learn called trimming, okay? Trimming on the wheel. So we're gonna create this foot, okay? Do you see how it's white and different from all the glazed part of the project? This is on the bottom of pretty much every pot you ever make. In reality, we should have put feet on the bottom of our cylinders, but for the sake of time and how much you learn during that first project, we teach feet during the bowl project. But even this bucket here from Amazon, okay, has a little ring at the bottom of the pot. Okay, look at your Dixie cups, your red Solo cups, everything you eat or drink off of tonight, and you will notice that there is this little ring, and it creates stability. So you only have to have one part of the pot that is actually flat. For example, when you cut your cylinders with the wire tool, you didn't always cut it perfectly, and so they wobble. So we only have to worry about this part not wobbling, and the rest of this can have designs, it can have glaze, and it can also, in the case of a bowl, be curved to match the inside. So we want a thick bottom when we are making a bowl. So when I drill, I'm gonna leave close to 1/2 inch down there. You would rather have too much than too little. So I've got quite a bit of clay down there. If I want to check and see how thick it is, I'm going to do my handy dandy needle test. I'm going to stab down, put my finger there, and that is how much clay I've got, which is plenty. Okay, so I'm going to leave that. If I had drilled too deep, I would start over at this point because there's no way this bowl will survive. All right, that's difference number 1, thick bottom. Difference number 2, instead of opening straight to make a cylinder, I'm gonna open slanted. Okay, so I've got my hand slanted, my elbow is resting, and also, as I open this, I'm going to lift up. So I'm not only slanted, but I'm gonna lift up and kind of raise my fingers. So right now you can't really see my fingertips that are in there, but as I start to open and pull towards my body, you're gonna see my fingertips, my fingernails, as I move to the top here. Sometimes you get this second lip here. If that happens, just take your little sponge, kind of hold the wall a little bit and just push that down. I'm gonna open it again because I'm making a pretty good sized bowl here. So I've got my fingers slanted and I'm going to raise towards the top like this. So already you can see that it's concave like a bowl. I'm gonna take my sponge now and kind of clean up the inside, get rid of those little ridges from my fingertips. And it already looks like a bowl on the inside, but it is way too chunky on the outside. So now we're gonna move into raising. So our third difference, okay, number 1, thick bottom. Number 2, curved inside when you're opening. Number 3, when we raise, I'm not going to raise using the side of my finger and raising straight. I'm actually going to use my fingertips now, which are curved, to create a curved wall. Okay, so I'm going to go out. I'm not going to stay straight when I raise. Now, you don't want to go out too fast, okay? So I don't want to go out here too fast because then my project can do what I call pancake, which is where the walls will fall. So I kind of raise in what I call a V shape. So my sponge is on the right side, my fingertips are on the inside. I'm trapping the clay between my 2 hands, and I'm raising up. Notice how I always touch my hands together if possible. That is so my hands will move together automatically. My right hand is also resting on my knee, so is my left hand, just so my hands don't shake. All right, I'm pressing down on the bottom here. And I'm gonna squeeze the clay between my 2 fingertips. If I notice it's thin somewhere, I'm not gonna press as hard. I always gently release at the top. Okay. And I'm just gonna feel for thickness here. So sometimes you have to raise a little thicker at the bottom, but otherwise I want my walls to feel the same from bottom to top, the same thickness between my 2 fingers I'm feeling. Okay, so I've got my pot raised up. That was difference number 3. I raised out in a V shape. My lip of my pot is wider than the base, okay, which we did not want with a cylinder. I am now going to compress and shape it. When we made a cylinder, we used a wooden rib because we were making something straight. But this is not straight. So you actually have 2 options now. You can use a rubber rib or a metal rib. And I like this kidney kind of shape. This is a very common rib shape. It doesn't have any really sharp edges that's gonna dig into your pot. So with your first starting off, I'd probably use this one just because it's a little safer and it won't slice your project like this will. But this one is actually the better tool. It definitely gets gunk off easier. All right, so I'm going to clean my tool. I'm gonna get the water out of there some. And then I'm hoping you can see inside there well. I might need to move this a little forward. I'm going to slant this like that. Can you see okay? Kind of trying to get my hands out of the way. And I'm going to press down. Again, this could cut my project if I do not follow this angle that I am doing. And I'm moving towards the edge here, and it's creating a perfect, nice, concave, curved pot here. I'm gonna do it again. I don't want to have like a 90-degree angle here. I want everything to be nice and curved. Hopefully you can now see that the bottom of my bowl is nice and curved. This is the lowest point, and then it curves up and out. All right, now I'm going to address the sides. So I'm gonna scooch this angle back some. Okay. And let's see here if that looks all right. I'm going to bend this rib. My sponge is on the inside. I'm trapping the clay between my two hands, and I am shaping this bowl into the shape that I want. There are a variety of bowl shapes. If I have one that's more like this, see I'm kind of tucking the top in, okay? Kind of collaring the top in. This would be more of like a bowl for soup, so it doesn't spill out, okay? But I don't necessarily want to make a soup bowl here. So if I want this to be wider, my left hand then is going to kind of bring this lip out. And I again like to do this with a sponge or a rib, so that way I can keep it smooth. All right, so here's more of a traditional bowl where it just always gets slightly wider as we go. And then you can also make a serving bowl where I really widen the lip here, so it's easy access. You know, maybe this could be a candy bowl or something like that, so your hand can get in there easily. And then I'm gonna trim this lip, hold it, and I'm having to go at a little bit of an angle because I folded my lip down some. Trim that off, soften my edges. One of the last things you can do with a bowl is that you can purposefully kind of play with these edges. So I could do something like this, and I could do this in a couple places. I could create kind of a flower shape if I wanted. Okay, I can kind of keep doing it. You can also take the lip and like twist it and kind of create a funky kind of bowl like that. So I'm gonna wire this and I'm gonna cover it because I have to come back and trim the bottom, which I will show you next.